Video that you just saw is newly released. It, of course, happened on January 6th. And what you're seeing is Officer Michael Fanone, who testified a few months ago, being dragged into a crowd. And he's being dragged by a man, Albuquerque cusp head, who allegedly bear hugged him, told him that he's gonna help him. He's gonna get him out of there. And then he pulled him away from the other cops so that the crowd could do blank. You insert into that whatever you want. It certainly wasn't helping Officer Michael Fanone. And that sort of video is a reminder of how bad January 6th was. It was terrible, should have never happened. And it did happen, and there's still a lot that we don't know about it. And so thankfully, there is an investigation. They're trying to get answers, but that does not mean they're gonna be able to do so if some of the people who might have helped to plan this, might know what the president was thinking about it, refused to comply with a request to testify. And we have a big name for you in that area. Steve Bannon's lawyer just yesterday wrote a letter to the panel saying that his client will not provide testimony or documents until the committee reaches an agreement with former President Donald Trump over executive privilege or a court weighs in on the matter. Quote, that is an issue between the committee and President Trump's counsel, and Mr. Bannon is not required to respond at this time. So earlier this month, they wrote another letter. They're big letter people, I like that. Bannon's attorney argued that the executive privileges belong to President Trump and we must accept his direction and honor his invocation of executive privilege. The claim that Bannon could be covered by the former president's privilege is unusual though, because Bannon wasn't working for the federal government during the period surrounding the January 6th insurrection. And privilege claims normally only apply to close officials around the president and deliberations between government employees. So not only was he not working there, he was fired 4 years ago. So it's weird that he remains this confident after he was yeeted out of the White House. But you can't just executive privilege everybody. The dude bear hugging Fanone doesn't get to claim executive privilege. That's not how this is supposed to work, Caroline. What do you think?
I just want to say I love this look into their friendship. I love how Bannon is that's private. He's my best friend. You can't you can't go there. That is between us. And as you said, they're letter writing people. It's very cute. It's such a shame that, the topic has to be about an insurrection on the United States, because other than that, I think they have a really wonderful, loving relationship. But yeah, this whole January 6th thing it's just getting in the way of their bromance. And he really should just testify so they can leave it behind them and be in prison together as best friends. That's really all.
And look, if they were trying to get me to come in, I'd probably be frustrated about it too. Thankfully, I don't have any behind the scenes information about the planning of it. Is that something I have in common with Bannon? I don't know. He's acting like we don't, because if he didn't know anything about this, it might be inconvenient to be brought in to testify. He might feel like if he's seen to be complying with their requests, MAGA world might not like that. So I want to be clear, him having secret information is not the only plausible explanation for why he wouldn't comply. But as you'll see in just a little bit, there is reason to believe that he might have some behind the scenes information. In any event, those organizing this are not that shocked that he's not complying, and apparently they're gonna do something about it, they say at least. If Bannon is a no-show, the committee is expected to immediately begin seeking a referral for criminal contempt after the subpoena deadline passes, which I believe is today actually, essentially making an example of him for the non-compliance. It might take some time, by the way, before the House sends such a referral to the DOJ, but they could begin the process actually later on today. And so it's possible that we might know. My question for you, Caroline, though, is I've been, sort of, I would say pessimistic about any legal consequences for virtually anyone. Not to say there hasn't been some people involved with Trump over the past 4 years have spent a little bit of time in prison for the things they did. Far more haven't though. So if you were Steve Bannon, how worried would you be right now?
Oh God, another great question, because I definitely believe that there is a real belief among Trump's members of Trump's circle while he was president that really have this sort of like narcissistic delusion that nothing of substance can happen to them. And I think you see this really interesting split within the former Trump world of like, there's the Stephanie Grishams and Michael Cohens who are kind of like, I didn't know what I was doing. They're horrible. They were brainwashing me, blah, 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 blah. I love liberals now. And then the other side is like, oh no, like I have never said an ill word in my life. You are a liar. You are the one, you have skeletons in your closet. The election was rigged, blah, blah, blah. Like it's really insane that there are these, it's a huge split. So something is definitely going on in this world where people are realizing, individuals in that orbit are realizing that there's only, the road is split before you. Either you double down on apologizing and saying, it wasn't me, we were corrupt by power, or you just have to keep going. And I think the second lane, if you will, is just getting narrower and narrower, and people are dropping off as these consequences become so dramatic. And back even in 2016, I don't think anyone would be surprised to know that in a couple years, yeah, Steve Bannon is still right by the president, is still the former president is still sticking with him despite all of the insanity that's happened.
Yeah.
So I think that takes a level of deluding yourself. And I think if anyone's done it, it's obviously Steve Bannon, who, largely some sort of outsider, I guess, but it's a fascinating.
It seemed like it for a while.
Yeah.
And no, he's apparently got some access. Trump seems to have forgiven him in some ways. The base seems to not care that he conned them out of millions of dollars to build a wall, and they just bought yachts with it. And nobody even remembers that anymore.
Well, they had a falling out, right? Like something. Am I wrong in that there was something that happened between the two of them that, or have they always been good? Have they always, like Trump and Bannon, been like pretty much side by side?
Look, it's a thing that happens to a lot of groups. They were spending a lot of time together in the White House, and everybody wants to be the one hot person in the group, and so they're naturally gonna clash or whatever. But anyway, really fast, I do want to let you know though about some of the reason to believe that he might know at least something that the committee would want to hear. On the eve of the riot, Steve Bannon warned on his podcast the day before, all hell is going to break loose tomorrow. It's all converging, and now we're on the point of attack tomorrow. And all I can say is strap in. You have made this happen, and tomorrow it's game day. Which, look,
not suspicious at all.
You could just describe, we're gonna have a lot of people there. There's gonna be signs. We're gonna sell corn dogs, and we're gonna have our voices be heard, and we're not breaking any windows. You could be describing that, but it's a better description of what ended up actually happening. So anyway, and by the way, Robert Costello of the Washington Post says Bannon had actually been in close touch with President Trump for days before January 6th. Based on a reporting, he privately told President Trump to have a reckoning on January 6th. And he said to the president, it's time to kill the Biden presidency in the crib. Just a great metaphor for one pro-life guy to say to the other pro-life guy. But anyway, that none of this is proof that he knew anything, but maybe he did. Final thoughts?
Just a little. No, that podcast statement is wild because I remember that day before they breached the security, before they got into any of the buildings, just kind of being like, oh, this is a protest, which is allowed. And that even when it started to go wrong at the beginning, there was just such chaos and confusion that I was just like, okay, again, like, yeah, these people are not my people, but like they are allowed to do what they're doing. So yeah, what you're saying about the fact that had Bannon not given this like explicit detail using literal like language of war and attacks and that kind of thing, it has to show that they knew that something was going on. And like you said earlier, what to me the whole January 6th thing that is so unfortunate is that because of all of these issues around who is telling the truth, who we're gonna have testify and not testify, it seems like we're never going to actually be able to investigate the real things that need to be investigated, including like, how did they breach the security of the Capitol? But it just feels like we can't even get there because
totally.
I mean, people don't even accept that Biden is the president of the United States. Like, if you don't accept that logic as a grounding, like, we're never gonna get to the more serious things that really do need to be investigated. And all of this evidence comes out, just keep proving further and further that there is fire where there's all this smoke.
Yeah, I don't know that they're ever gonna find anything, but if they do, I hope that they hurry up so that they can finalize their report before the next insurrection.
Yeah, right.
And by the way, based on his podcast comment, I love how adaptive the crowd that showed up is. So the night before, get in there, point of attack, game day, get them, it's awesome. Then they do it, and the right's like, this might go poorly. That's Antifa. And then a couple months later, oh, we haven't been like illegitimized in politics. We can keep doing this. They're us again. They're patriots. It's like it really does depend on when. Political prisoners. Why are you persecuting them? But I thought they were Antifa.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.